What's up guys, Justin here with TheSketchUpEssentials.com. So in today's video we're going to check out a beveling extension for SketchUp that allows you to quickly add bevels to your corners and edges. Let's go ahead and just jump into it. Alright, so we've talked about bevel before, but it's basically a tool that's designed to help you quickly round off edges inside of SketchUp. And so part of the reason I'm making this video now is through the end of the day tomorrow, you've got a 20% off early adopter discount that's going away. So if you have been interested in getting Bevel, you can do that through tomorrow at a discount. Remember that Bevel does come with a permanent license. For that $39, it is going to be going up tomorrow. But this is basically a tool designed in order to help you quickly add bevels and chamfered edges inside of SketchUp. So let's jump over into SketchUp and take a look at the way that it works. So if I go into SketchUp, I'm going to go ahead and toggle my hidden geometry off for right now. And you open up Bevel, you're going to have the option for a couple different kinds of tools. So first off, you've got a tool that just works on your regular geometry. So what you do is you pick an edge right here, and what we're going to do is we're going to mouse over an edge and we're going to click on it. All right, so I'm going to click on this edge right here. That is now selected. And now I can click in here and I can move my mouse in order to set how far you want to bevel the edge, like this. And when you're done, it's going to bevel that edge off. It creates nice geometry in there. It works really well, super easy to use. Now, note that you can also use this to select multiple edges, either by clicking and pre-selecting the edges like this. So say I wanted to add bevels to the outside of all of these, I could do that. Or you can also activate the tool, mouse over the edges, and then click on them. And notice how I can hold the shift key in order to add or remove objects from that selection like this. And so once we're done, we can single click somewhere on one of these edges, and then we can either type in a value or we can just click in order to set that bevel. So if you wanted this to be maybe 1.5 inches, you could just type in 1.5, hit the enter key, and it's going to bevel that to 1.5. Now, one thing to note about this, you can also set the number of segments. So if I click in here, right, notice how in the lower right hand corner there's an option for offset and then also segments. So say I wanted this to go 1.5 inches, but I only wanted this to bevel this one time instead of creating multiple faces. What I could do is I could type in 1.5, comma, 2. And hit the enter key. Notice how when I do the 2, it's only going to generate 2 faces in here instead of this one, which generated 6. Now I'm going to undo that for a second, and let's say that we wanted to go ahead and we wanted to set our depth like this. Notice how we can single click and move our mouse, but then if you tap up or down on the keyboard, notice how that's adding or subtracting segments from this. So if you truly wanted to create just like a regular bevel, you could just activate this and then tap the up or down arrow key, in this case down, until you have one segment. And when you're done, you click on this, you can see how this created a bevel in here instead of this rounded edge. Now, this does work on interiors as well. So if I single click in here, right, I move my mouse, we'll go ahead and tap the up arrow key in order to add some segments to this. We'll go with 18 segments now. But notice how you can use this in order to bevel the inside of an object like this. And if you turn your hidden geometry off, you can see how this is just going to look like a very smooth face in here. And so you can do that with multiple faces at once, or edges at once. So I'm going to do a shift click right here, and I could use this in order to add an interior bevel to both of these objects. Alternatively, and I'm going to do a little bit of undoing really quick, you can also do both inside and outside at the same time. Right? So say I wanted to pick up all of these edges right here. I'm going to single click, move my mouse, or type in a value, and then click again. Notice how it's going to bevel all of those off at once. So it's super easy to use in order to add those bevels to your raw geometry. Now there is also a tool in here which is pretty cool, which is a non-destructive beveling tool. And so it's the second option right here. This is only going to work on a group or a component. It won't work on non-group geometry, right? So if I take this, try to do it, it's going to tell me to select a group or a component. But the way this is going to work is say that I select this like this. Notice how this is all grouped. Well, if I come in here and I click on the option for live bevel, what that's going to do is that's going to bevel this object off in a way where I can see these live. Now, note that I can adjust things like that edge offset when I do this, right? So you can kind of see that in this view right here, but I could type in a value of like 2. And you want to make sure you don't go so far that you're getting an overlap in here. That's going to start causing some issues, obviously. But maybe if I type in a value of 1.5, notice how it's coming in here and it's beveling everything on this object to a value of 1.5 in here. And so the cool thing about this is I can click off of this. Notice how I can see that it's beveled right here, but I can click off of this, then I can click back onto it, click right here, and I can go back and adjust this, right? So if I felt like that bevel was too far and I only wanted maybe a 1 inch, but then I also only wanted 1 segment, so a true bevel rather than a rounded edge like this, notice how I can do that using this tool right here. Now you can also show either just the beveled result or your proxy object, which is your original object, or both right here. You can also click on the edge offset button and you can click in order to adjust this in here. So you could either type in a value or you could move your mouse like this, but this is non-destructive in the sense that when I click back off of it, I still have my original geometry in here. And if you ever want to revert to that original geometry, you can click on the option for remove. So when you do that, that's going to completely remove the bevel from the object. Alternatively, if you get the object where you want it to be and then you want to finalize this, you can also click on the button for commit. So when you click on commit, that's going to finalize your bevel, meaning it's no longer live. This is just the geometry now. So you can use this in order to finalize that. And so one other thing about this that's pretty cool is it's actually live. And so what that means is, let's say that I apply a bevel to this object. We're gonna go ahead and set our edge offset to like 2, just so we can see it a little bit more. But if I come in here, notice how I can still select this surface. Well, I can actually adjust this geometry, right? So if I come in here, whoops, and we push pull this back, for example, notice how this is actually beveling that geometry as we go, right? So what that means is, let's say that I was to offset this surface in like this. I'm gonna push pull it back. Notice how that hole that's in here is gonna have that bevel applied to it as well. Now, one of the things I'm noticing in here is I'm noticing that this is like over beveled, right? So we can just adjust this offset back, and we can either click like I'm doing, or we could just type in a value, right, like 0.25, and that's going to adjust live. But if you look at this, you can see that this is adding those bevels live to this object as we model. And so it's going to do the same thing for a shape like this one, where if we activate this, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to offset this in, I'm going to push pull this up, I'll offset this in, and then I'll push pull it down. Whoops. We're going to want to pick up this piece of geometry right here, but notice how this bevel is being placed in here live. So you can actually do live modeling and see the changes of your bevels in here really quickly. Now there are a couple other tools in here in order to either clean up or change the way this looks. Like for example, I can select this one, click on the option for auto soften and smooth edges, and you actually want to go into the group and select those edges, but I can click in here in order to auto soften and smooth those. So if I do want those to be softened and smoothed, I can do that this way. You could also just select some of those and soften smooth them as well. And so one place this can get a little bit funky is, say you've got a shape like this one and you've got like edges in here that are split up, and you select maybe one of them but not the others, right? That's going to give you a non-ideal result in here. It's just going to create problems. And that's because you've got extra coplanar edges and other things like that. There is a tool in here designed to help you clean up those edges. So what you can do is you can select this, right? And you can click on the clean button. And what that's going to do, and you can see this down here, is it's going to combine your collinear edges. It's going to delete your coplanar edges that aren't really doing anything. And so that's going to kind of set this up for beveling. Well, now if I come in here and I select, let's go ahead and let's go with this whole face in here. Notice how that geometry is now in here in a way that it's pretty easy to bevel. So if you run that cleanup tool beforehand, then you can get some better results in your model. And then this last option is just a preferences option, and you can just set some things about the way the edges are auto softened if you want to do that, as well as the language that's in the tool. So overall, very simple tool, but I think it does a great job of doing what it's supposed to do inside of SketchUp. All right, so I'll link to Bevel on this page if you do want to check it out. It is on sale through the end of the day tomorrow. If you see this after the sale's over, still a great tool. It just won't be at 20% off. But leave a comment below, let me know what you think. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks, guys.